are some artists out there that just won't allow us to put them in a box. They push boundaries, discover new ways of creating, and they help broaden our perspective. One of those artists for me is Daniel Arsham. He's collaborated with people like Dior, Pharrell, Adidas, and so many more. And today I really want to take time out to look at the entirety of his career to evaluate how his market became so explosive. Let's get right to it. What's going on, y'all? This is Frame. I'm Moriah, Alise. And first of all, I just want to really thank you guys for all of the support that you've been showing me. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. It's incredibly encouraging to know that you guys are gaining information as I learn information and give it to you all. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're into art and the art market and discovering new things about the art world, go ahead and subscribe. In other words, subscribe if you vibe. So today is all about unraveling Daniel Arsham and his career. If you pay any attention to high fashion or pop culture, you've 100% realized that he's collaborated with Dior for their 2020 summer men's collection, and also with Pharrell recreating the 1980s MT500. But I believe his most notable collaboration was with Merce Cunningham. Now, if you don't know who Merce Cunningham is, take a second and look him up. He was a world-renowned choreographer that helped catapult Daniel Arsham's career. He hired him right out of college to help him create the lighting, the set design, and the costumes for one of his choreographies. Now, Merce Cunningham made a habit of putting top-tier artists in collaboration with his studio, and I'm sure Daniel Arsham was overwhelmingly excited, and I would have been, to join the list of those like Andy Warhol and Robert Rauschenberg. During this time period, he signed with Paris and Gallery and began having notable exhibitions. Daniel's practice is clearly expansive. He's of course had all of these collaborations. He's a sculptor, a painter, an architect, and seemingly an archaeologist. And if we know anything about inspiration, we know it comes from somewhere. Daniel moved from Cleveland, Ohio to Miami, Florida, and in 1992, he was in the midst of Hurricane Andrew. This destroyed his home and many other buildings around him. I would say this easily changed his perception of what the process of architecture is. He started to look at architecture as a subtractive or a deductive process over an additive one. He has taken this thought and these ideas throughout the entirety of career, and it's very notable in his work. He's also been led to a specific color palette because of his color blindness. I'm not sure if most of you know this, but Daniel Arsham is colorblind, and he can only see about 20% of what you and I can see. This expands his usage of black, white, and grays. Now, he definitely doubles down on the crystal usage and the volcanic ash that brings a certain etherealness to his work. Many of the materials he's using as an additive, and many of the techniques he's using as a deductive process. If you look at his work and you see the crystals and you see the volcanic ash, it looks as if the crystals are growing through, but you also see this deduction. You also see that he took a tool and he gnawed it through to make it look like it's falling apart. Now, we don't know if it's growing or if it's falling apart. This has become a huge part of his practice. And the idea of archaeology, taking contemporary objects, molding them and shaping them to look like they are archaeology, making them look like they're a thing of the past, enables him to push the present into the future. It's almost like he's preparing these modern day objects for someone to find them in the future. And I think that's one of the most interesting things I've ever seen. Daniel uses architecture and pushes it and moves it and allows it to be malleable in a way that we're not really used to. He makes a room have negative and positive space, but in the walls. He makes the walls do things that they just shouldn't do. So it's gravitational for us when we walk in a room and we see these cutouts and we may see a body popping out of the wall. There's no telling what Daniel's gonna create when he manipulates time and he manipulates space, and he uses all of the practices that he's created over the years and he brings them into an exhibition and essentially walks us into his world. Now, with Daniel Arsham's explosive career, we can't ignore the fact that he was going to have an explosive market value. I mean, at some point in his career, he was gonna get to the point to where he was reaching auction sales that we couldn't even imagine. Go to the screen and take a look at the change in his total sales in the auction market. Now, it's really important to see here from 2014 to about 2016, he was barely breaking any numbers. And when I say breaking any numbers, you're gonna see what those numbers were in a few moments. But in 2017 and 2018, he started to make a little bit of noise. 2019 was incredibly explosive. In 2020, this year, in the craziness of this year, his market is doing well. Before we go on, I really want you guys to understand what price realized means. So price realized is the hammer price plus the buyer's premium. And the buyer's premium is an additional charge that covers administrative expenses that accompany the sale. So basically, what it is when the auctioneer puts the hammer down and says that's the price realized. Now, when you're buying a piece in auction, you're gonna pay some additional fees. So the hammer price plus those additional fees that you pay, that's the price realized of that specific piece. So here are the actual numbers. If you look at 2014 to 2016, you see he's in between $4,000 and $6,000. That's a very low market. And I'm not sure he had the confidence that he would do well in the secondary market. But when we reached 2017, it was explosive growth to 28,000. Now, from what we're used to seeing in the auction market, that's really not a lot. He started to really impress us when he reached 2018 at $52,000. But there was no way that we would begin to even imagine that he would go from 52,000 to 847,000 to this year breaking 1.2 million. It's insane, it's incredible. Now, it's one thing to take a look at what he realized in auction prices, but if you want to dig a little bit deeper, you want to look at how many lots he was actually offered. Now, we want to look at the lots offered versus the lot sold. This is huge because now it puts in context why his 2014 and 2015 could have been such low numbers. He was only offering 1 to 2 lots, right? So of course he was only going to be making $4,000 to $6,000. But when we move on to 2018, he was offering 9 lots and sold 3, operating at 33%. I'm not sure there was much confidence there. Now we see that explosive year of 2019. 2019, he offered 98 lots and he sold 86. That's 87% of the lots that he even offered. And of course, we move on to this year where he's selling 95 out of 114 lots. But guys, when you're doing a market value analysis, don't stop there. You have to ask yourself, or you have to do some searching. Was he selling above the estimate, within the estimate, or below the estimate? Now, what I mean by that is a group of market experts come together and they decide how much they believe this work will be sold for. And when it sells, it either sells for above that, within that price, or below that price. Obviously, you want it to sell for above, but it would still be good to sell within. Now, it started at year 2017 here because that's when he really started to sell his work. Now, he sold 22.22% above in 2017, 2018, 23.4%, and 2019, he jumped to 58.16%, which also explains why there was such explosiveness in his price realized. In 2020, so far, he sold 51.38% above the estimate. So the people that are analyzing his market, they've been a bit wrong. So I'm really curious to see how they estimate his work over the next few years. I would say it's a really good time to buy his work. Daniel's having a pretty solid 2020. He has several articles written on him, so clearly journalists have a lot to say. Guys, when you're an artist and you begin to be written about, collectors are collecting your work, your name is floating all throughout the internet, you have 817,000 followers like Daniel does, people begin to know you and they begin to buy your work. But the good news is, just as he has overwhelmingly expensive pieces, he still has some affordable ones. And I'm taking a look at some of those himself. Look at websites like First Dibs or Artsy, and you're sure to find some of those pieces that I'm talking about. I hope y'all don't take the one that I'm trying to get though. I don't even know why I just told y'all. We've taken a look at why he perceives things the way that he perceives them to as far as we can see. And we've looked at his market value. I hope this gave you guys an idea of how I evaluate a market for an artist and what I look at to decide whether I'm going to invest in that artist or not. Now, Daniel's one of those artists that I would probably buy one of his pieces anyway. I love his work and I want it in my home. But at the same time, it's a really good investment. Guys, we've talked about those type of investments before. Be sure to check that video out. I'll put it in a link at the top here. Now, y'all, I want to thank you so much for being a part of my YouTube journey. Thank you for watching this video. If you're subscribed, thanks for subscribing. If you vibe, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.